In this video, we're going over 6 different core exercises that we like to show for tension and tension and gradient development. Tension is important with the different types of lifts and different positions that we're in based upon how much need there is in the abdominal or the core area. Okay, let me explain that. So if we're doing something like yoga, we're doing like a cat-cow, we need the spine to be flexible, kind of like a fishing rod, and there's very low tension in that type of movement. However, if we're sitting, we need a little bit more tension, and if we're deadlifting 1 rep max, we need a lot more tension. And that's how the spine develops stiffness that we're looking for. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. I did a video just recently on isometric core training, which you should watch before doing this. And we have a whole correlated article as well. All the links are below. Now the first one we're going to go through today is a push-up position plank, which was given to us by Dan Johns. Now the push-up position plank, so we're going to have Crystal go into a push-up position plank. Okay, scooch this way a little bit because I think our view is this towards me. That's not towards me. There you go. Good. So we're going to leave it at that because I'm trying to keep the view in focus here. Okay, so she's in a push-up position, and what I typically like to ask people to do is give me your best plank. Okay, so she's trying to be as robust as possible. Okay, so then I would start with first pushing her around. Okay. She should be able to resist me and be as flat as a board. And I'm not assessing her form at this point because it's not the whole point of the video. Okay, next, I take her hand, and I'm going to do this other hand over here. I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to pull up as hard as I can and tell her to glue her hand to the ground. Okay? We can also take her foot and pull up like this. So you see she's gluing herself to the ground really well. You can relax. So what this basically does is, I honestly ask them, I say, hey, was your first perception of 10 out of 10, that tension, was it a 10 out of 10? Or did you realize the stuff later was a 10 out of 10? And they start realizing that their 10 was when we started developing tension and starting to pull them off the ground. Okay, so that's a good one to start with. Now that we have a gradient, okay, we have 1 out of 10, we have 10 out of 10. We never really want to be a 0 out of 10. So next we're going to go to a bear hug. We're going to use the water bottle here. I'll have her pick it up. We have a line on it right here on the top. I'll just show you guys. This is mainly to give them a direction of which way to point it. And the reason why I have this here is because if you notice we have this notch or cutout here. People like to grab on this for their gripping, basically. And we don't want them to do that. We want them to use all the sides to this. So Dan John calls this anaconda strength. Okay, we're basically taking this like it's a rabbit, and we're a anaconda, and we're trying to crush it from all sides. Okay. Rather than just kind of using our fingertips or grabbing on these little grippy parts right here, we actually want them to pressure it from all sides. So go ahead and wrap around that thing for me. Okay, so she's using her elbows, her biceps, her chest, her belly, and the other hand, notice they're not touching. Okay, I want her to sit up tall. Good, and now crush this thing. Okay, and what I like to notice on people is if they like to shrug their shoulders, go ahead. So they're actually trying to bring the thing up rather than press it against their body. So okay, go ahead and press these things down, try to drive the elbows into your pockets, and then relax. Okay? What this does is, we're pressuring in again against the belly. This also limits the amount of chest breathing they can do, which we see in a lot of chest breathers. So we're looking for diaphragmatic breathing, which improves tension and pressure within this region right here. We're going to go into that a little bit later with balloon breathing. However, do this for me one more time. Good. Nice firm contact. Sit up tall like you got a balloon on the top of your head. Don't let the hands touch. Don't let them touch the bottom, and crush it. Okay? And she's actually shaking. You can't see from the video. Okay? And then relax. Next we're going to go into one that I developed actually. This is more to teach them to keep this position while I'm trying to push them out of it. So it's more perturbing type of exercise. We call it a water bottle steal. And by the way, before I go too far with that, you can do bear hugs with sandbags. You can do it with filled up trash cans. I actually asked how to make it harder, and it's actually you make it greasier. So a lot of times when they're sweaty, it actually makes it a lot easier. We don't want them to have grip and stick. We want them to drive in. Okay, go into that same bottle crushing position with the anaconda strength. Good. She's going to drive that in. So now what I'm looking for is spread those feet a little bit, feet grounded all the way on the ground. And now I'm going to try to take it from her. And you'd be surprised how hard this is for people to do. So we want this line right here pushing forward as much as you can. Now if I want to simulate her to not extend as much, I might pull up a little bit and then give her a little bit pressure side to side. Okay? If she tends to be someone who flexes a lot, I might pull down here, go ahead and extend back, so now she's activating her backside. Regardless, I see one thing that she's not doing well. She's not breathing. Okay? So it's really common to not breathe on this thing, so we want to cue them to breathe through their sides right here, through these sides of their belly area, which we're going to go into next with balloon breathing. Okay, so we had to cut away to do a proper view on balloon breathing here, which you can do on a wall, but sometimes you can get people to do it on a bench like this. When their knees are up like this, or we call it the 90-90 position, there you go. On the wall also, this kind of takes a lot of the responsibility of this away. You can do it eventually with this and some support systems away, but to focus on the breathing here, a lot of times it's just easier to take that out of the mix. So we're going to assess to see if she has chest versus belly breathing. So I usually have them put hand on the chest and the belly, breathe twice. Okay, so she's doing some belly breathing. We've done this a bit, so we're just ignore it and say she moves from the, move that one. Move that one crazy like. Okay, so she's trying to move this top hand, okay? So this would be the chest breathers, and you can see the rib cage flare comes into effect here. So what I typically like to do is have them put the balloon in their mouth. Okay, I'm going to instruct them to make that balloon as big as they possibly can with as few breaths as possible. So we're not taking it out of the mouth. We're going to breathe in the nose, into the hips here, or into the soft spot of the belly, and then out into the balloon. Okay, go ahead and you can do one hand on that. You can go bring this hand away. Let's switch hands too so they can see right there. Okay. So I'm going to give her a trial run first. And surprisingly, this is really hard for a lot of people. I know this looks like a really uneventful video. But when you breathe in, I want you to press into my hands here. Good. Keep tension on my hands. Breathe in. Press into my hands. Don't let me crush you. Good. Go ahead and take a break. Okay, so the next time I have them do it, I usually have them put their hand on their own side right here. They can hold the balloon with the other one, but if we still have them breathing, you'll see the sternum and the rib cage right here. I'll be able to grab underneath it at some point. I don't know if you guys can see. I can grab underneath it at some point. So oftentimes I like to press down right here to not let it elevate when they're actually breathing. So sometimes people feel like they're going to suffocate like this because they can't actually breathe without bringing their chest up and down. But when we're talking about the actual mechanics of how breathing occurs is, think of this like a syringe, okay? We have the back end of a syringe and we have the vial where all the medication goes. And the lung or the chest cavity actually is filled with what we call negative pressure, okay? So the air comes in by the diaphragm or plunger moving down. When the diaphragm or plunger moves down, also it increases pressure within here, okay? Pressure is inversely proportional to volume. We're changing the volume. So she's going to try to depress that diaphragm by pressing into my hands, which is one of the easiest ways. So give me another one again. By the way, we do have a whole other video on this one as well. Okay, so before you go, your hand here, balloon hand. I'm going to press here just to make sure you don't elevate. So you press into your own hands every time you inhale. Nice long inhale, nice long exhale. And while she's doing that, I'll tell you guys, it usually takes about a week or so in my experience for people to really start owning this. I have them do it every day because there's no way they can create proper tension on anything else that we did if we can't get them to actually decrease the position of the diaphragm and fill this area full of pressure. Go ahead and relax. So that is balloon breathing. Go buy a pack today. Next we have a goblet squat with a pump. Again, this was given to us by Dan John, so I don't think you want that one. Okay, so if everyone knows what a goblet squat is, Crystal's going to show you. Hold it by the horns here, keep her up right by your chest, and go ahead into a squat for me. Ideally, the elbows should be between the knees, and she should be able to touch the knees. Down, there you go, good. So this is a nice tripod position here, so you can see that her form is much better than if we just gave it to her and she was pushing out where she didn't have this tripod right here. So go ahead and come up for me. Good. So I'm not going to go into teaching squatting technique as much as the pump on this one because we're teaching gradient of tension. So what I like to tell people is now that we've got this gradient that we got in a push-up position plank, now I wanted to hold a tension of a 5 in every single part of this exercise except for the pump, which is going to be roughly an 8, let's just say. Okay, so go ahead and go down for me. Hold your tension at a 5. You're going to come out, drop the weight down, and 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, keep going, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, good. Drive up with the hips, now we get a 5. Now one thing I typically look for is when they're in the standing position right here, a lot of times they feel like it's a rest, like they just kind of go back, they're like, ah, yeah, that's a good rest. But we want to keep a tension of a 5 here, okay? We don't want to endorse having them in that extended position. So she's still at a 5 here. Go and go down for me. Give me a 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Good, pause, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. You get the point. And it's not about the pump with the bicep, it's about changing of the leverage. You go ahead and bring that down for me. Okay, lastly we have deadlift holds, and I like to use this to position people in the right setup position as well as pre-pull tension before we actually lift the weight off the ground. So during this exercise, I'm not actually going to have her at all lift this weight off the ground. It should be glued to the ground. You can actually use a much bigger weight, but just for the sake of demonstrating, I didn't want to grab a huge weight and bring it out. But you can almost get something heavier than they can actually get off the ground. And for that reason, we're going to act like it's a sword in the stone. So go ahead and set up into a deadlift for me. Now I'm not going to go into technique on how to set up for a deadlift. We have a whole nother video on that, which I will put a link description below. But when she goes down into it, we're going to find the position that we want. And let's just say this is what we want right here. Okay? I'm going to have her breathe into my hands here. We're going to set that intra-abdominal pressure. So she's trying to drop that plunger of the diaphragm down and breathe through the sides right there. And let's just say we like this position right here. Now she's going to tension from the hamstrings, tension from the shoulder girdle, and just act like, so if this thing was 300 pounds and you're trying to get it off the ground, but don't let it off the ground. Okay? So now we can see, give me a little bit of a degraded form here. Give me a little round. So let's just say she's going through that and now she's got a round developing. So I can cue her out of this a little bit. So if you had a logo on your front collar right there, I want you to show it to me if I was over there. So drop this down for me. Bigger chest, good. And now we can cue the breathing again and set her into the right place. Okay? Go ahead and stand for me. So I usually have them do this for about 15 to 30 seconds roughly. And it is surprisingly hard. But the whole point of it is again, we're not doing form right now because I know some of you might have an issue with the form here. But either way, we're looking at how to develop proper tension within the correct form. Okay? We do have a link description for how to get correct form on a setup below this video. Now, that was all we have for today, but if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, you really need to. We have a bunch of videos coming out. I have one on isometric core training. We have one coming out on the pillar system, which is a term that was coined by Core Performance. Also, we have some standing core ones coming next. So if you ever wondered anything about core training, this is the video series you're going to want to be on, okay? We have an article correlated to it. We have a podcast correlated to it. You're going to know more than you ever want to know about core stuff. So stay tuned. See you guys next week.